Welcome architectural enthusiasts, my name is Michael Avramopoulos and this is tutorial 6, and in this one we'll be looking at 3ds Max and a Tyflow workflow. So we'll be using Tyflow to create a general 3D terrain that can be used for general purposes within 3ds Max and other programs. So first things first, let's get stuck into it. So to start off with, we'll open up our 3ds Max, and what we want to do is we want to start by going into our standard primitives and grabbing our Tyflow option here, and this will allow us to draw our Tyflow icon right there, big and beautiful. From here we can go to the modify tab, and this is while we have the Tyflow icon selected, and open up our editor. So we'll just get this nice and modeled here. What we want to look for creating a basic terrain, we want to slide across to birth terrain, and if we grab this and we drag into here, you can see we have our new created flat ground here. So the first thing we want to do from here is we want to look for a terrain noise, so this one here, we can drag that in. This will be able to give us a basic sort of terrain that's undulating up and down, and we can change this between two settings here. We can change between fractal and rigid, which is a bit more mountainy in this regard. But we can do much more than this. So from here we can add in a terrain slope. So what this does is it allows us to go into this gradient map in here, and we can change our terrain, and we can move these around and get some sort of interesting sort of shapes if we want to make something a bit more like a bowl or bit more sloped, and you can zoom this in and out to get a further range of distance between how high the terrain is, how low the terrain may go, and we can play around in here. So we can change in from the linear option from the X, so from side to side, can make one side higher. If we change the linear Y, we can make this side maybe a bit higher like that, or we can drop it down really low so we have a very steep terrain like this. So once we have our terrain, we have the undulation sort of played around with, and to our sort of desire of what we want to do, we can further look into what the terrain actually might look at for where we might want to place this in relation to what we might be using it for. So for this we can add in a terrain FX. So adding this in will give us this modes option here, and we'll be able to go into all these different options that it can be. So if we might say an alien planet for some reason, this is a bit more of a bubbly sort of surface that uses our information that we've put in the previous slope, or we might look for something that's a bit more realistic, like some ridges. This will take a bit more time. So we've got some nice ridges there, and we can then take this another step further again. If we want to add in a terrain color, we can then come down into this option here. You can customly choose your color palette, or by adding in these here, or we can go to the presets, which are quite handy in this scenario, which can link to some of the effects, the pre-created effects as well. So considering we've selected in our effects, we've selected ridges, we might want to come into the terrain color and in the presets and select a grassland ridges. And we'll give this a sec to load. there we go. We have some effects applied to that. So this has got this preset in here that makes it look quite nice and realistic. And you can do this between the two. Say for another example, if I change this and have it as a desert, we can change the terrain here. Wait for it to load. So you can see that's got a bit of a sand sort of form to it now, like some big sand form ridges. And we'll still wait for it to load a bit further. That's all good. And now we might, to make this look a bit more realistic, we can come in here and we can go for desert sands as our terrain color. So once this comes in, this might look a bit more realistic for sand, pairing the sand's form and the sand's color together as well. So I might just say one that I like, something, might look for a rocky form. And then for the colour, I'll say, do some mossy hills. So that might look pretty cool like that. Might be happy with that. And from now, this is just created in Tyflow. So if we want to grab this and have it as an operable sort of terrain, we can add in a terrain mesh here into our box here as well. And from here we can extract the mesh, and then we can select to move that, and if we drag that up, that's got our different options here now as well. So this is our terrain now that we've got, and we can use this to be operable by anything, whether we want to make models on it or anything regardless. So you can use this for whatever you want, export it out, or anything that you may want to use it for.